On Monday, July 8th, 2019, Univision viewers turned on the TV at 7 p.m. to witness history. That day, Amor Eterno premiered on the US television network, marking the first time Univision aired a Turkish dizi, or telenovela, in its weeknight lineup, instead of a Latin American one. The series, which told the story of two lovers from very different social classes, would go on to make Univision the #1 Spanish-language network in the 7 p.m. time slot for the 6 months it ran. It was so successful that Univision decided to buy the second season of the show and move it up to the 9 p.m. primetime slot.
Amor Eterno regresa el 6 de enero a las 9 por Univision.
That telenovela's performance marked the beginning of a Turkish TV explosion in the US, completely changed a telenovela economy dominated by Latin America, and helped take Turkey from a non-player to the third largest exporter of scripted TV in the world, behind only the United States and the United Kingdom. How did Turkish telenovelas win over US Latinos, and how have they changed how telenovelas around the world are produced? This story is about the hyphen between Turkey and the United States. When Univision announced it would air its first ever Turkish drama, Amor Eterno, journalist Veronica Villafañez said the network was doing it to, quote, test audience response to the popular format in other parts of the world, end quote. To understand why Univision, a $2.7 billion company at the time, would take such a big risk, we have to go back to something that happened in 2014, thousands of miles away in Chile. That year, Mega, one of Chile's national TV networks, was struggling to break out of 4th place in ratings among rival TV networks. Patricio Hernandez, the network's director of programming, was willing to take risks. He told BBC News, quote, "We had a stale programming schedule with very low ratings. We needed programming urgently that would boost ratings." Strapped for cash and time, he decided to license a project that he had previously tried to air at another job, only to be shut down by an executive who said Turkish content just wouldn't resonate with Chilean audiences. On the other hand, his new boss at Mega said, go for it. That project was Las Mil y Una Noches, a Turkish dizi that told the story of a female architect and widow who was fighting to keep her son with leukemia alive. But unlike other foreign telenovelas that had been licensed before, where just the story itself is bought and local producers shoot it again with local talent, Hernandez bought this one canned, which meant they would simply dub it and get it on air as soon as possible. The act of dubbing Turkish content was so unheard of in Chile that it was actually pretty hard for voiceover actors in Chile to get it just right.
Pero nunca nos había llegado un material en turco, el idioma es totalmente diferente y pocas veces escuchado, por lo menos para mí. Entonces sí fue bastante difícil. El texto pasa por varios procesos hasta llegar al estudio, en donde finalmente se vuelve a modificar por el director de la teleserie, en donde vamos calzando las bocas de los actores con los sonidos en español.
Still, dubbing the telenovela as is was faster and cheaper.
Si nos remitimos, digamos, a 10 años atrás, los relatos turcos no se vendían al precio que se venden hoy en día.
Juliana Casano Iturri is a professor at a Peruvian university who has studied Turkish dramas extensively.
Eran bastante más manejables. En términos económicos, comprar un relato turco que comprar, no sé, un relato probablemente brasilero, ¿no?
Las Mil y Una Noches premiered on March 3rd, 2014 on Chilean television to warm reception. Within weeks, its ratings doubled, and it catapulted Mega to #1 in the ratings.
Además que la historia, compadre, se pasó.
El drama no era menor, vender tu cuerpo por ciertos millones de pesos para salvar a tu hijo que te estaba muriendo. Entonces, la música es muy lenta, entonces es muy rara, es como, sí, te amo.
It was such a strong reception, executives at the network decided to extend its showing from 3 to 4 days a week. By the end of 2014, it was the #1 show on Chilean television. And before Las Mil y Una Noches even finished airing, Mega announced it would air another Turkish dizi, ¿Qué culpa tiene Fatmagül?
A continuación, ¿Qué culpa tiene Fatmagül?
It was another smash hit, crushing all other networks in ratings. Immediately, other Latin American countries took notice.
En el Perú se replican del caso chileno, es un poco lo que ocurre en el resto de países. Uruguay, Argentina, ¿no?
In fact, these telenovelas were so popular they even caught the eye of Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro, who made it a point to visit the set of one of them in Turkey.
¿Y por qué se murió Jalime?
But why were they so popular? What made these telenovelas resonate with Latin American audiences? As I started pondering this question, I realized I'd never actually seen a dizis. See, I consider myself a student of early 2000 Latin American telenovelas, from Salomé to La Madrastra, Soñadoras, etc. I would watch them religiously every single weeknight with my parents growing up in Chicago, up until I was about 14 years old and I kind of weaned off them and stopped watching them. Still, I have a pretty good sense of what Latin American telenovelas are like to this day. They usually have some sort of socioeconomic tension between two love interests, feature beautiful actors, and feature steamy, passionate scenes. But Turkish dramas, I knew very little about them. So before moving forward with this story, I decided to watch a few episodes of La Familia, a Turkish drama that premiered on Telemundo in late 2024. Here's a time-lapse of me watching it. Just kidding, that's a fake time-lapse. Here's a real one. Okay, so I just finished watching a few episodes. I like it. It's very plot-driven and plot-heavy. Like, a lot of things happen with like a criminal ring and a love story intersecting. Another thing I noticed, the actors, I know they're Turkish, but if you told me they were, this was set in Mexico, phenotypically, I'd be like, yeah, they look Mexican. And then 3, the dubbing. So I usually, when things are in another language, I guess I usually watch it with subtitles, but in this case, there was no option to watch it with subtitles. It comes dubbed. At first, it did bother me a little. Like you notice the neutral Spanish, it's a little not as natural as normal speech, but then I actually stopped noticing it and I just got used to it and it was almost soothing. So I'm not a big telenovela watcher, but to me, this looks and feels like a telenovela. But those are just my very uninformed observations. After doing some research, I found that while there are a lot of similarities between dizis and telenovelas, there are also stark differences. Before we get to those though, I want to tell you something. My name is Fernando Hurtado and I'm a journalist with more than 8 years of experience, most recently telling stories with NBC and Telemundo. In January, I left that job to launch this channel, In The Hyphen, where I'm telling deeply researched stories about US Latinos. And I need your help supporting my work. Please subscribe so you don't miss my next video. All right, now back to the story. I wanted to speak to someone who knows Turkish dramas very well. Based in Istanbul, Turkey, Beatrice Okan is a vice president and head of sales and acquisitions for Intermedia, the media company that produced Amor Eterno, the dizis that made history on Univision.
Yo pienso que las series turcas destacan mucho por su melodrama, sus narrativas emocionales, que se centran más en los personajes. Incluyen historias románticas, lealtades familiares, amores prohibidos. Todos estos elementos puedo decirte que tal vez reflejen un poco la estructura también de las telenovelas en Latinoamérica.
Kaan says there is another element that makes Turkish telenovelas attractive to viewers in the US. Most of the telenovelas that traditionally aired on Univision and Telemundo came from Mexico, with occasional offerings from Colombia, Brazil, and Miami, and at one point Venezuela. So viewers are used to seeing Latin American cityscapes. And actually, viewers don't even see these cityscapes too much.
Las localizaciones en Latinoamérica son más en estudios y en Turquía las dizis, como se les llama, son más en exteriores, entonces eso las hace también muy exóticas.
I asked Kaan if the fact that Turkish actors could pass as Latin American actors had anything to do with Turkish dizis success in the United States. O sea, nos parecemos los latinos y los turcos un poquito, ¿no? O no sé qué dirías tú.
Sí, totalmente. De hecho, cuando nosotros vamos a los mercados, yo voy, mi territorio es Estados Unidos, US Hispanic in Latinoamérica. Siempre que voy a los mercados, cuando presento las novelas y ven los pósters o el catálogo, siempre el brochure, siempre me dicen, es que parecen actores de Latinoamérica.
As many similarities as there are also big differences. One of them, length.
En Turquía las series suelen ser de 120 a 150 minutos. Y estos episodios se graban a veces casi semanalmente.
Instead of airing daily like telenovelas do, dizis in Turkey air once a week. To fit US and Latin American programming grids, Turkey edits these down.
Se lo enviamos ya editado para, digamos, adaptado a lo que piden en Latinoamérica o en Estados Unidos.
There's also one thing you won't see on Turkish dramas that you see a ton of on Latin American telenovelas: skin and kisses.
Son relatos también un poco menos más tradicionales o más conservadores en algunos aspectos. Resalta mucho el hecho de que no se necesita tener actores y actrices, digamos, con mucha piel y muy poca ropa para que el relato funcione.
That's in part because RTUK, the Turkish federal agency that regulates broadcasters, considers couples making love or kissing on broadcast television obscene. One other element that sets these stories apart is their emphasis on strong women. Juliana Casanurruti has studied Turkish telenovelas and has found that many show women navigating patriarchal societies, who, despite adversity, transform themselves and the men around them. I wanted to see how viewers in the United States respond to these storylines, so I went around Los Angeles looking for viewers. After exiting my car, it took me exactly 5 minutes to find some.
¿Qué es lo que le gusta de las telenovelas turcas a diferencia, digamos, una telenovela mexicana o latinoamericana?
No, pues tiene más acción, más, ¿cómo le diré? En las novelas turcas hay mucho drama.
Amor prohibido, pero eran unos papichungos. Ay, qué ricos. Siempre me gustó esa y la de Fatmagül. Ay, esa me enloqueció.
Las partes donde firman cosas muy bonitas y se ven muchos paisajes en las partes de afuera.
Y me dijo que están bien guapos los hombres. ¿Se le hacen más guapos los hombres de las telenovelas turcas o los mexicanos?
Oh, soy % turcos. Preciosísimos, bellos. Bellos papaitos. Hagan más novelas.
So this love of Turkish drama seems very alive and well. So how are US and Latin American telenovela makers adjusting to this influx of Turkish dramas? As the saying goes, if you can't beat them, join them. Companies like Telemundo, Caracol, and Mega have signed co-production deals with Turkish media companies to partner on these productions.
¿En qué consiste esta coproducción? Bueno, la coproducción básicamente es más financiera porque los guiones son turcos, actores son turcos. Sí estamos abiertos a que nos den, como te comentaba antes, ideas y seguir, digamos, la línea que nos dicen que les interesa más, que va a ser más, en cuanto a audiencias, va a ayudar que siga la línea pues de este drama.
In 2016, TV Azteca, one of Mexico's biggest media companies, decided to close its original telenovela division, opting instead to license Brazilian and Turkish dramas to fill airtime. Meanwhile, Televisa Univision, which has long been one of the largest producers of telenovelas in the world, is still airing dubbed versions of Turkish telenovelas. But it's also buying scripts of dizis that have done well in Turkey and making local versions with Mexican actors. In the US, both Telemundo and Televisa Univision, the parent company of Univision, have portals dedicated to Turkish dramas. Univision has even featured Turkish actors on its award shows and other programming.
Esto se llama café cubano. Get ready to go to sleep at 6 in the morning.
Back in Turkey, the demand for dizis from around the world has changed some things.
La industria del turismo ha empezado a venderte tours de Europa que además terminan incluyendo a Turquía, porque hay un interés de la gente en llegar a Turquía, a conocer esos espacios que se ven en las telenovelas de la tarde, de la noche.
Turkish media companies are also finding themselves producing dizis that never even air in Turkey, aimed at streamers like Netflix.
Y son más rápidas, más edgy, más sexys. Sigue estando el círculo amoroso, la historia de amor, pero tienen, a lo mejor se desvían un poquito más a la acción o dramedies, comedia.
Kimden korkacağım ben?
And finally, to keep up with a strong US and Latin American demand, the dubbing has changed.
Cuando nosotros lo enviamos a doblar, en Turquía, por ejemplo, a tu suegra se le dice madre, a tu suegro se le dice padre, a una persona más mayor se le dice hermana, aunque no sea tu hermana. Entonces, todas esas cosas intentamos cuando se envía a la empresa de doblaje hacer luego una revisión para que no cause error para la audiencia en Estados Unidos.
Beatriz Kaan, who started selling Turkish telenovelas 10 years ago, around the boom of Las Mil y Una Noches in Chile, can't get over how different things were just 10 years ago.
Incluso antes, cuando yo empecé, a partir de 10 años empezamos ya a vender, pero anteriormente teníamos novelas que se grababan y no había guiones, porque no se esperaba que fueran a viajar al extranjero. Entonces hay novelas de hace más de 10 años que no existen guiones.
Do you watch Turkish telenovelas? Why do you think they're so popular in the US and Latin America?